ask you a question. When life hits hard, when the market tanks, or you have 3 deals blow up in one day, or your best tech just walks out midweek, what does your team do? Do they bend or do they break? Over 30 years of coaching, there's one truth that stands out over and over again, and that is that the vast majority of people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lack resilience. They get knocked down and they stay down. But A players, they don't. They bounce forward. And every time they fail, they see that as training and not trauma. I'm Chris Hunsicker, and this is the Dealership War Room. Leadership fire, 7 minutes, built daily, fueled intentionally, and delivered relentlessly. And today, we're going to dive into resilience as a key component of the psychological capital that can absolutely build and sustain A players in your dealership. Let me give you a working definition of resilience. It's the ability of you and your people to rebound from adversity, conflict, failure, or even positive stress like growth and new opportunities. It's not just the ability to bounce back, but it's also the ability to bounce forward. Weak resilience in your team shows up as breaking under pressure, blaming circumstances, and just quitting too early. Strong resilience in yourself and your team looks like bending without breaking, learning through and from stress, and then bouncing back stronger. So now let's apply resilience to our DNA of an A player and see how you can build them from scratch and then maintain your A players once they're working for you. When we look at clarity as that first element of the DNA of an A player, what resilience does is it sharpens focus. So resilient people, they don't lose focus of the target. They don't get distracted when hard times or difficulties come up. It narrows their focus and lasers them in. The next element of the DNA of an A player was competence, right? That ability to do the job. And what resilience does is it sharpens practice. It motivates, it fuels that desire to practice. So when you have resilience, what your A players do is they come back in and train. They come back into practice this week, even when last week was a mess. Now, let's look at that third element of the DNA of an A player, which is commitment. And this is where resilience shines. Without resilience, people just give up. They fade. But with resilience, they stay in the fight. So let's take a look at character. The effect resilience has on character. What does it do? It deepens it. It strengthens it. It makes the roots go down stronger. Because grit under fire produces legacy when people refuse to fold. And that's the essence of character. Since resilience is absolutely critical to the DNA of an A player, let me share with you 4 specific steps you can take and master the skill of building resilience in yourself and your team. Number 1 is reframe the story. This is a master skill that you've got to get good at. No matter what comes up, no matter what goes on, you want to be able to reframe the story for yourself and your team, because resilient people don't say, I fail, they say, I train. As a leader, you have to model this reframing. Your people are watching you to see your ability to process a bad month or set it aside with this statement that, hey, you know what? That's one more rep that's going to make us stronger. What you're doing is modeling for them the reframing, but more importantly, you're giving them permission to reframe their own failures as okay, this is a rep in the gym. This is learning. This is our chance to build and go forward. The second is a growth mindset. Your ability to build a growth mindset in yourself and your people is absolutely critical to building resilience and building A players. Because a fixed mindset, the opposite of a growth mindset, absolutely kills resilience. It says, I can't do this, so why even bother? Why even try? But a growth mindset, it says, hey, I'm not good at this yet. And that yet is so critical because that's what gives your people permission to lean into the growth. Teach your team to add the word yet to everything they do. No matter what they're struggling with, frame it as, I can't do it yet. And that's what turns despair into development. It is incredibly powerful, and it's at the root of creating a growth mindset in yourself and your people. Remember, language matters. Third is normalize stress and struggle. Too many dealerships, they shame struggle. It's almost as if you were any good at this, you would be able to do this. This wouldn't be this hard. Wrong. Struggle is the price of progress. Normalize it. Tell stories about your own mistakes. Make it safe for people to admit that this is hard, that I'm struggling, that this is difficult. In other words, it's been normalized. Then what happens to your team is they build muscles instead of masks. Now, let's get to the 4th step in building resilience in your people. So the 4th element that you need is what I call the ABCs of resilience. The A stands for adversity, the B for belief, and the C for consequence. Let's take a look. Here's the truth. Adversity doesn't break people. It's the belief that they attach to it. That's what breaks them. The adversity is customer cusses me out. The belief I create, I'm not good at this. The consequence, burnout and quitting. So same situation, customers cussing me out. New belief, this is one rep in my ability to learn how to handle conflict. New consequence, real growth for me and persistence in my ability to move forward. Your ability to master and teach the ABC model to your team will actually rewire their meaning making, because now you have the ability in any area of their life to help them turn pain into progress. Let me introduce you to Jonathan. He's a GM that I coached that went through 3 brutal months of missing nearly every target you possibly could. During that time, 2 of his top sales managers, they quit and walked out. The OEM was breathing down his neck. Not only was his sales objectives low, but he couldn't hit his CSI. And he was so frustrated, he was just ready to quit. That's when I entered the picture to start working with Jonathan. And the first thing we started to do was reframe things for him, that all of these struggles were training, they weren't failure. A lot of text messages back and forth to keep his head in the game. I'm training, I'm going through. And sure enough, after 6 months, his CSI turned around, his sales turns around, and the entire culture turned around. Matter of fact, the OEM sent someone to come in to see what he was doing because they hadn't seen a turnaround that fast, that quickly in that zone in forever. So where's the danger? The danger in this is when you start to confuse resilience with strength, with muscling through, with trying to add more grit. That the idea is I just got to try harder, stuff my feelings, go through. That is not resilience. That's denial. And when you engage in that kind of denial, what you do is you create brittle leaders that eventually snap and break under pressure. The real danger when managers fake toughness is that you teach your people the wrong lesson. Struggle is weakness. Hide it. Pretend it doesn't exist. That type of culture eats resilience alive. Nobody ever owns their mistakes. Nobody ever admits to struggle, so nobody ever grows. Here's the truth. Resilience isn't about avoiding pain. It's about metabolizing the pain and using it as fuel. Elite leaders who build resilience in themselves and their teams, they don't ignore hardship. They coach it. So when you have a rep or someone that misses a deal or misses a thing, you sit down and you're like, good, that hurt. Feel the pain. Now, convert that. What did you learn from that pain? Now, how do we apply that next time to the next thing? You want people to sit in the pain, but not alone, with you, right there, by them, to coach them and help them learn and move them forward. You master this task and you will build resilience in your team. Fake toughness creates brittle teams. Real resilience creates bend but don't break warriors that cannot be defeated. Now, let's cross the insight to action bridge. I want you to pick one struggle from the last 30 days. It could be a lost deal, a missed number, a metric that didn't hit. And I want you to ask yourself this question. What if this wasn't failure? What if this was training? Then ask your team the same question. You will be shocked at how quickly the mood, the energy of the room shifts and changes when failure becomes fuel. Tomorrow, we're going to finish the hero model with the O, optimism. Because if resilience bends, then optimism is what rises. So go out today and really take a look at my job as a leader is to build resilience in my team and use that to create some leadership fire. And I'll see you tomorrow in the Dealership War Room.